What's good, everybody? Welcome to the Violent Life Podcast. I'm your host, V, with my boy Lucas. And today we're here to break down last night's card, UFC 330, and break down the main card for next week's card, which is Anthony Hernandez versus Rodriguez, Robocop. So let's get into it.
Awesome, man. Yo, I feel like this first fight on UFC 330, man, Jeremiah Wells, Miktikbek Orobai really set the tone for what this card was going to be, man. You know, it's not often you see a minus 1,000 favorite. He was winning the fight with 2-0 on my scorebook, and then he gets subbed in 3. Who saw that coming? What a fight while it lasted. Man, this was not expected, man. I wonder who, if anybody, bet on Jeremiah Wells by sub and what that paid out. But, big upset and killed a lot of people's parlays. What'd you think of this, man?
Yeah, that was a guillotine from hell, and it put Orbai out. You know, a lot of people are high on Orbai. I'm high on Orbai. But the thing is, and we saw this later on the card, is these guys who who had great success at the lightweight division and move up to welterweight, they start looking not so promising. Mitzebek is one of them. You know, he moves up to welterweight. He knocks out Hermanson. Welcome to the club. And he went up against a dangerous. I would always say Jeremiah Wells is dangerous. And, even though he was winning, you could see he was not comfortable standing and striking with Wells. He had to use a lot of feints and was just always not even really in striking range to fight. The whole fight got clipped in the third round, shot a desperate takedown, and when you get desperate, you get choked. And that's kind of what happened. And right off the rip, killed a lot of people's parlays, a lot of people's picks, started 0-1. But that's the thing is, like, anybody that's parlaying Mitzebek as a minus 1,200 favorite, this goes for everybody. If you're parlaying someone that's minus 900, minus 1,000 plus, it's like you're taking so much more risk for like $1 difference in profit. And this is a learning lesson. You just don't bet numbers that high. This is a sport where anything can happen. And if anybody did have Jeremiah Wells in their parlays, hats off to you, man.
Yeah, well said, man. Not an outcome that I think most people saw coming. But like I said, set the tone for this card, man. I felt like this card was very, very heavy on matchups with heavy favorites. And I didn't think that there was any in between. I think every single fight was either heavy favorite or pick 'em. And that really made this card hard to bet on. I did not do too well. Neil Magny and Ramiz Brahimaj. This one, man, I had picked Ramiz, and I really thought that he was going to be different than some of these guys that come in, do a little well, and then kind of choke and get magnied. But I was wrong, and he was that exact type of guy. He came in, he looked great, he was wrestling, really utilizing his control. And then Magny kind of just said, fuck it, stood up, and just started punching him until the ref called it off.
Magny's always been this guy where if you're going to be anything in that division, you're going to beat him. And if you're going to be that middle of the road type of fighter, you're going to get Magnied. And, Magny is like 25 and 13 in the UFC alone. He's an established vet. He's fought the who's who of that division for many years. And yeah, man, he's earning that retirement video slowly. If Anthony Smith and Michelle Waterson get one, you could expect Magny's gonna get one when he retires. So, and Magny, his past few fights that he's won, he's finishing the fights, which is different from how it usually was going. He's finishing fights now. Maybe not the most exciting finishes, but he's finishing fights. So that's good to see. Nothing really else to say on this fight, For Ramiz, it's back to the drawing board. Got to work on that cardio a little bit. If he had a little bit extra gas, he could have probably avoided getting reversed and then punched to a TKO. Started the card 0-2 on picks.
This was not fun. I think at this point, in the card. I had texted you that I'm ready to turn it off now. But, you can't be dry forever. I think you and I both got our first win with this next one. Lucas Fernando and Rafael Tobias. This was a guy who looked like absolute shit in his last fight against, a guy who hasn't fought in the UFC. This was a LFA guy, did really well in LFA, got the short notice call to fight Tobias, and it was very impressive. Fernando looked really good, really sharp, a lot of flashy movements, and the pace just was too much. Round 3 ended up getting Tobias out of there, and this was it was fun, man. But I don't know. You got Tobias is 0-2 now. He's young. I don't really know if you give this guy another shot. I'd say maybe send him back to the drawing board, make him get a few more wins, and then bring him back. But what'd you think?
I thought that Fernando looked phenomenal. Mean jab, hard calf kicks, and he just stuck behind a game plan to strategically break down Tobias. And he didn't force the finish. There were some moments where he threw some flashy shit, the spinning wheel kicks, and I think he threw an axe kick at one point, or maybe it was a front kick, but really didn't force the finish. And when the finish came, he took advantage of it. Yeah, I'm excited to see where Fernando goes in this very weak light heavyweight division. He was moving like a lightweight out there. I think a lot of guys are going to struggle with that going forward. As for Tobias, I don't really care what you do with him. You could cut him or you could keep him around. A lot of guys would have folded a lot quicker. Maybe you give him one more fight in the UFC. You could give him an upcoming prospect again, or you could just give him someone you're trying to get out of there. So it's a weak division, so I wouldn't be surprised if they kept him around for one more.
In times like this, you need some cannon fodder for these good prospects. And, maybe we keep Tobias around as that. But I would like to see him get a win just so that we aren't passing around a Owen whatever guy every time he loses, But I'd say enough on that one. Our next fight, man, first leg of the Violent Life parlay. We took Vicente Luque to win. This was a really tough fight. Odds were very close on this. Tresean just looked really good out there, man. He, depending on how he scored it, he won 2 to 3 rounds, and Vicente landed a beautiful flying knee in the last round to just fully break the bones of Tresean's face. So, tough fight, really entertaining. I thought Tresean was going to get this. I didn't talk too much on it. I should have last week. Always thought that as far as Tresean and Vicente, when you look at how they lose, Vicente's known to get knocked out or subbed. Whereas Tresean, we've seen him get knocked out before, but Tresean's never been subbed. And I thought that, that was going to be where Vicente needed to capitalize. And I didn't think he was going to get a moment like that. We did see Vicente apply a few subs in this fight, and Tresean was able to escape all of it. It was a fun fight, but, Tresean got the win, shut down the Violent Life parlay, first leg.
Yeah, it was a good fight. I thought for sure once Vicente were locked up the Darce that it was going to be over. That's his specialty. That's exactly how I envisioned the finish. Was he was going to boom Tresean at one point, get him in that Darce, and then he was going to get the tap. And as soon as he didn't get the tap, I was like, there goes that pick, because that was tight. That was tight. That was as tight as it was going to get. And Tresean did a great job working out of it. Yeah, good scrap. Vicente knocked out Tresean's tooth at the end of the fight. I think that's like the second or third guy Vicente's done that to with the knee. But yeah, Vicente's always going to be one of those guys you could just put on a card like this, and he's going to give you somewhat of a good scrap. He's definitely past it. Tresean, he's coming into his prime. So yeah, I wasn't high on him still being in the UFC, but he's definitely going to be around. So excited to see where he goes from here.
I'm excited to see what's next for. If you remember, man, back when this fight got made, I was very excited. I from the get-go, I kind of was thinking this was Tresean's stepping stone. But I'm excited to see where they go with him and what's going to be the path for him, because I personally believe he's sitting around his skill level right now, ranking-wise. So, I think if he gets someone too high up, it might not be good. But I think, give him someone within 5 spots of him and, it'll be a fun matchup. But moving on, I would say the first part of fireworks of the night, Dante Johnson and Eric McConaughey. I was really kicking myself after this played out, man. I felt like I had gotten stuck with the trap, man, which was overthinking this fight. I wanted to bet Dante, and I wasn't sure what about Eric McConaughey made me so. Well, I guess there was nothing about Eric McConaughey necessarily that made me put any stock in him. Dante's performance against Cody Brundage left a lot of doubts in my head. So I really wasn't sure if he was going to come out and look like shit again, or if he was going to come out and do exactly what he did, which was just look great and knock this dude out. What a beautiful combo. Minute and 38 seconds into the first round. V, what'd you like about this, huh?
I mean, it was a quick fight. I fortunately didn't fall into the trap of overthinking it. There was a lot of doubts or maybe speculation just based off of Dante's last fight. But you have to keep in mind he's fighting a guy, Cody Brundage, and Cody Brundage makes a lot of good fighters look not promising. He's a scrapper. And, he probably also had the adrenaline of it being his first fight. Again, just not overthinking it too much. Dante Johnson did what he was supposed to do here. And I'm excited to see where he goes from here.
Yeah, agreed. On to the next, man. Charles Johnson and Eduardo Chapelin. This was another one where Charles Johnson's incompetence in his previous fights, all of his holes, every time he's looked weak, kind of all stacked together. So I was really not sure how this was going to go. He got basically put out, first round, and came back. It was incredible, and hit a Scottish twister in round 3. I've been watching for quite a while now, and I've never heard of Scottish twister. That was sick, man. That's something that I'm going to want to experiment with in the gym, I think. But what a surprise, man. Charles Johnson, full of, this guy is knocked out Loner, knocked out Joshua Van, and now he's hitting Scottish twisters. Whew. Energy, baby.
Yeah, man. I was about to text you after he almost got knocked out in round 1. Send this guy to selling t-shirts again. But, he finds a way, man. He finds a way just based off of how Charles Johnson's career has played out, not really knowing too much about this Chapelin guy. I thought that from what we've seen with these guys that come in on such short notice on their UFC debut, they give a lot. They give everything in these fights, and just to be in that position just in the first place. And, I feel like he had an adrenaline dump in that when he tried to finish, and when he didn't get the finish, the tide slowly shifted to Charles Johnson. And yeah, that Scottish twister was nuts. I was like, what the fuck even happened? I don't even know what the hell that is. And I've been watching this sport for 13 years, and I don't think I've ever seen a Scottish twister. So yeah, that was a sick finish. Charles Johnson just keeps proving he's gonna be that guy in that division. And yeah, Chapelin, back to the drawing board. I wouldn't say cut him, but I would say, give him a fight where he has a full camp, and let's see what he could do there.
Agreed, man. Agreed. Moving on to our main event of the prelims, Chidi Njokuani against Joel Alvarez. Man, this was our mutual L, man. Who would have thought that Joel Alvarez would go stand in front of the striker and just let his head get boxed off? I mean, I would say it's a pretty boring fight. He kind of just chased, but didn't throw anything. I was very confused. I don't know why you would ever game plan to go stand in front of your opponent in a fight, but that's what Joel Alvarez did. This was another big underdog win here. Njokuani by decision, man. If anyone bet that, man, let me know. What did that pay out? Because that had to be crazy odds.
Yeah, going back to Mitzebek, this is the other fight that I was alluding to. These guys like Joel Alvarez and Mitzebek, where they had so much promise in the lightweight division, they move up to welterweight and they're not delivering as much. I kind of wrote off the Amosov loss with Alvarez because I'm very high on Amosov. I would say he's the dark horse in that division. But I remember when he fought Vicente, even when he fought Vicente, it wasn't like he just didn't look like he did at lightweight, where he was just finishing all these guys. And I think up until the Vicente fight, I might be wrong, I think every single fight that he had in the UFC that he won was a finish. And now he's not finishing fights. Doesn't look like he has the pop on his shots that he did at lightweight. And yeah, man, that was just a very terrible game plan to want to strike with the striker. After he realized that he doesn't have the power to put away Chidi, he should have been shooting takedowns. But that's the thing with Joel is he's never really been known for his wrestling either. What he was known for was his submissions off his back, and Chidi wasn't gonna put him on his back. So it was a very bad stylistic fight for him. Yeah, going forward, man, it's gonna be tough with Alvarez because this is a fight that he should have won. The Vicente fight, he should have won a lot more clear. So he's gonna have to make some real changes in his training camps. As for cheating, great win, and he's probably gonna crack the top 15. So
Oh, yeah. It's chitty chitty bang bang, man. Back in the win column. This dude's been knocked out 5 times, subbed 4, but he has 15 wins by knockout. It's crazy, man. So yeah, they'll keep him around, and we'll see if he can build his wins or if he's just gonna end up building his losses. Moving on to our main card. To open this card, we had Esteban Ribovic taking on Edson Barbosa. I think we all knew that Esteban was going to win this. I had some hopeful thinking that maybe Edson would pull off one last victory, so sprinkled a little bit on him right before the fight started. Didn't play out well. He ended up it was a standing TKO round 2. I thought it was a bit early. Edson was taking a lot of punishment for sure, but he didn't look like he was about to go down. And, I think you could have given him a few more minutes. They were scrapping. So it was fun while it lasted. Edson has always been entertaining. This is just another sad retirement. Someone who's been around for as long as he has, who has the resume, the highlight reel. Just another guy that's, you add him to the history books. There's any new fans starting to watch going forward from today, they're not going to know who Edson Barbosa is, which is wild. But, great career for Edson. I mean, I would say solid win for Esteban, but, we'll see where he goes from this, man.
yeah, it was one of those fights for Esteban where he did what he was supposed to do. And with that it was very sad because, I like Ribovic. He's always a scrapper, but it's tough to really be happy when it's up against a guy like Barbosa who's delivered us so many highlights for the real the past 13 years, this guy. Probably longer than that at this point. But yeah, Edson was always the guy that you got excited when he was on the card. He's had so many memorable fights, finishes. Everybody brings up the Terry Edom knock spinning wheel kick knockout. But, this guy put away Beneil, spectacular fashion. This guy went to war with Paul Felder twice, went to war with Prime Tony Ferguson, went to war with Shane Burgos, and my favorite performance from Edson was definitely his fight with Dan Hooker. That was a nasty performance by Edson, and great career. I'm sad that he's no longer going to be around, but that's the name of the game, and wish him nothing but the best in his retirement. And as for Ribovic, don't sit too high on the throne after this fight because you did what you were supposed to do, but now you're going back to the dogs. So keep working. Would love to see how far he goes in that division.
Yeah, perfectly said. But, man, moving on to our second fight on the main card. Mansur Abdul Malik and Dustin Stoltzfus. Man, this pissed me off, man. Out of all the damn underdogs to go out there and do it, Dustin Stoltzfus. That was, I didn't think Mansur looked too hot, but you take this one, man.
Well, first things first, it worries me for my boy Belgarui. His 2 biggest wins are not looking too hot. Bakoev and now Mansoor. Going into this fight, I saw a clip of Mansoor talking about his last fight, and I felt like he said all the right things. Like, you get a lot of fighters when they lose, especially when they lose their first fight, they start making these excuses of outlying factors. If this was right, then this would have happened. And if I didn't eat this would have happened. And Mansoor basically said he lost to the better guy. Usury was the better fighter that night. I just had to go back and work on my skills, and I thought he was saying all the right things because fighters are delusional. You know, everybody that's competed knows you got to be delusional to succeed in this game. You got to believe you're the best. But when you start being delusional when you lose, that's when it gets tricky because then you're blaming things that you can't fix in the gym when most of the time there are things that need to be corrected in the gym in order for you to grow from the loss. And, there's the saying, you don't lose if you learn. And I thought that Mansoor was going to come out here and look better than he ever did. Unfortunately, that wasn't the case. I knew Dustin was very tough. I know he's a tough fighter. I wouldn't have put Mansoor as such a heavy favorite. Like the lines were like what, minus 900 or something. It was something crazy.
Crazy.
I didn't agree with those lines. I thought it should have been around the Joel Alvarez Chidi lines, where at least they're kind of bettable and parlayable. And even then, it would have still been a bad loss. But Dustin Stoltzfus, man, now he's 4-7 in the UFC. It was a good performance. It was a good performance, and I don't really know what's next for either guy. I mean, Dustin, you can't cut him. He just beat a so-called prospect. So I guess you could just keep feeding him to these type of fighters and see what happens. As for Mansoor, this is going to be a bitter pill to swallow because usury, he's a guy that's been established in a different sport, in different promotions, and he fought a terrible game plan and he got beat by the better striker, and that's what happened in that fight. This one's going to be a tough one looking back and seeing you lost this fight. So he's going to have to make some serious changes. I would say for him, he should take about 8 months off and really, really get back in the gym, start grinding, start focusing on what he needs to correct. And hopefully he could come back and, get a win.
Yeah, man. I mean, Dustin Stoltzfus, I think you hit the nail on the head, man. I think, he got a win over a prospect. He's been around for a while. He hasn't been that successful. So I think you're right. You just got to keep giving Dustin these guys. And, either we'll see him continue to beat these guys and rise up, or, he'll lose eventually and fall into place where he should be. I'm not sure. This was a really tough loss to lose to a guy like Dustin Stoltzfus. I would say, yeah, take the time off, and you need significant improvement because losing to Belgary and then Stoltzfus, you need to show us something because your ceiling does not look that high from where we're standing. This pissed me off. Mansoor should have won this, but good on Dustin. Moving on, though, my most confident pick of the night, Jalen Turner against Kawe Hernandez, man. This was, I said it last week, Kawe did not have the resume to be even odds with Jalen Turner. Jalen's looked like a bum in certain fights, but when we look at who he's lost to, for the most part, it's all like big name guys. And this is where the experience played a factor. I mean, wins over Harry Hardwick and Guram do not mean that you're going to beat Jalen Turner. Jalen came out, looked great. He caught Kawe in the first round, put him out. I can't ask for anything more, man. Back in the win column for Jalen Turner.
Yeah, I picked Kawe in this fight, just based off of how Jalen Turner fights usually go. And he's either a first round finish or he slows down, he gets tired, and the pace gets put on him. And I thought that Kawe was going to utilize his calf kicks, which I thought were going to be a huge weapon in this fight. And for some reason, he tried to do who did it to Turner? I think it was Vicente Luque and maybe one other guy. He tried the spinning elbow. Now, when that didn't work, he got put out, and rightfully so, because he shouldn't have been trying to boom Jalen Turner round one. He should have tried to have a similar game plan to Fernando, just calf kick, jab, really work Jalen and make him work, and don't force the finish. But he didn't, and I saw a pic after we made our breakdown of Fernandez looking like he was sick or something. And I'm not trying to say that was an excuse, but after I saw that pic, I was like, looks like something's a little wrong with him this fight week. And, we do our breakdowns on Tuesdays. I don't place any sort of bet until Saturday. And I always do that specifically because I need to see the weigh-ins I need to see how they look on the scale. I need to see the face-off for me to really form a conclusion on how I see the fight going, because a lot of things could happen from Tuesday to Friday. And, had I saw that pick before the pod, I wouldn't have picked Kawa. But it is what it is. There's no excuse. Kawa, I don't give a fuck what you do with him. Good win for Jalen Turner. Your leg was the only leg to win on that parlay, so good for you, kid.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, moving on to a fight that I really don't think needs too much coverage. Just spitting out real quick. Mackenzie Dern beat Jillian Robertson, 5-round decision. Mackenzie dominated in the grappling for the first 4 rounds and then took the last round off, got laid on for the last round. It was another one that pissed me off because when it was over, I just thought to myself, really? Dern by decision? I couldn't have predicted that. The obvious happened. Jillian Roberts, will not be remembered for fighting for the belt.
Nope.
Mackenzie Dern, man, they take advantage of the selling point of Mackenzie Dern, man. Every single camera angle last night, you could see the shape of that apple. That's kind of all Dern's good for, in my opinion. There's no threat of a finish. Yeah, she went for subs, but Jillian got out of all of them. There's much more that needs to be said. This division is not interesting, and I would like to forget about this fight as soon as possible.
Yeah, this was the one that kind of stung a little bit because this was my psycho parlay that lost because of this fight. I had Lucas Fernando KO, I had Islam decision, and I had Mackenzie sub. I was going crazy when she almost had her in the second round. And when that didn't happen, kind of like the Vicente fight, there was never really another moment in that fight where I was like, oh, it's going to happen. It's going to happen. I put $30 on that cycle parlay and the payout would have been $500. So I was very upset on that one. That was the closest parlay I had all night to winning, and that would have won me double my money that I put down. Mackenzie was a confident pick for me this whole time. I just thought she was better everywhere. And yeah, I mean, right now you could call her the champion, but there's a woman out west that's the champion. She's still the champion in my eyes. Wei Lee, get off the anime, get your shit together, come back. Please, you're like one of the only entertaining female fighters on the roster. Come on, get back. Let's do her and Mackenzie Dern at the Apex main event sometime next year. And that's what we'll do with that. Jillian Robertson, I don't care. I don't care really about this division, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly was calling for Jillian to retire when the fight ended because what's next for Jillian? What, she's going to fight her way back up to another title shot? I don't think so. Yeah, I mean, get Wei Lee and Dern to happen at some point. That's, I guess, the only thing mildly interesting. You could headline an Apex card with it. I won't have a problem with that. Moving on to our main event. This is another one I just don't think we need to talk about too much. The stakes were, the stakes seemed big going into this one. And, this was another one where it ended and I thought to myself, really? Islam decision? I couldn't have predicted that. This was a dummy card to me, man. I was kicking myself. I was smart enough to pick Islam decision, Dern decision, but I guess not. So, Islam did his thing. He dominated for 4 rounds. Ian Gary did some good damage to him, but it was so mild. It was just punching him when he was getting held up against the cage. Islam almost beamed Ian with that head kick. Had a really nice throw. But that was kind of the only interesting parts of this fight, man. I think this fight kind of sucked. Definitely a snoozer. But we were saying it for a while now, if Islam can just go out there and win a boring fight against Gary, I won't be mad. So I'm not mad. Ian gets to go back to the cuck chair, and that's just how the welterweight division plays out, man.
Cinema. That was fucking nuts. I was like, okay, because they were building this whole time up as if it was like part 2, and I never got that vibe from this. And then when Islam dropped Gary, not in the same sequence, but Gary scooted back in the same sequence in round 2, I was like, okay. And then Gary won round 3. I'm like, okay. It's kind of parallel a little bit. Yeah, that was the most entertained I was in the fight, was just trying to find the parallels to Conor Habib, which it was never going to be. And like you said, Islam decision. Not much that you couldn't have predicted there. And again, this was one of those fights a lot of people were overthinking it. Just can't overthink it. Islam's gonna do what he's gonna do. And that's what happened. Islam's gonna find a way to win. He's officially amongst himself with the longest winning streak in UFC history now. A record that so many people thought was never going to be broken. You can now really argue greatest of all time. And yeah, he said he wants to fight at the end of the year, which was shocking. I mean, I don't know if he's gonna. He usually never makes turnarounds like that. But he is recognizing he's 34 years old, so he needs to start fighting a little bit more actively. And if he does fight again at the end of the year, I would be fully confident in saying next year he's going to retire.
Yeah, well, I mean, he took a lot of damage in this fight, so a quick turnaround, especially if he's, right now they're saying Prates and Morales next. A quick turnaround against a killer like that, that seems interesting to me. I have more faith in an upset in those situations than, an Ian Gary situation. So,
Well, and that's the thing is these next two guys that are in line, and I don't think they're gonna fight each other first. I think it's gonna be one of them is gonna fight first, and I would probably lean towards Pratis getting that. But
agreed.
with these next two guys, they are going to look for the finish. They're going to put themselves in harm's way to try and get a finish themselves. And Ian Gary's never been that type of fighter. Ian Gary is perfectly fine with dancing around the cage and trying to win a point fight, which makes it harder for Islam. But you got these two up and coming killers, Pratis and Morales. They're gonna come and try and force that pressure on Islam, and it's either gonna work or he's gonna just work his grappling and probably be able to find a submission in those fights. So those two fights are gonna be exciting. I don't know if you saw, but the interaction after the card between Pratis and Morales. Pratis is pretty set in stone. He's getting that title shot, and then he'll give Morales the title shot next year.
Hearing rumblings that the UFC wants Morales to fight JDM, and then Prates would get the next shot. That's what I heard, but
Do it.
we don't know.
Get my goat back on top.
Yeah, you think JDM stands a chance against Michael Morales?
Yes, I do.
Michael Morales could grapple him, he could knock him out, he could do whatever he wants to JDM.
Yeah.
JDM don't.
I think you're talking about JDM being able to do that to Morales.
That's crazy. What have you seen from JDM that makes you think he would do anything to Morales?
I see a former champion that has two fluke losses back to back.
I mean, I think that former champion has a fluke win, and that fight was for the belt. So I don't know if he should have ever been the belt.
You're crazy, dude.
I don't know, man. He got the belt and didn't show us anything in his first title defense. So
He went up against the GOAT. And I don't know if you know this, but not only is JDM a recovering alcoholic, but he has severe emphysema, so he couldn't really engage too much with Pratis because it was going to wear off on him, the smell, and he might feel like if he touches him and Pratis starts to sweat, he might get a little tipsy from it. So he had to kind of not fight in that fight. So
tell JDM to go back to the alcohol because he ain't going to make it in this UFC shit. But hey, overall, man, I think you and I both agreed on this card. Give it a 6 out of 10. Not anything too exciting. But you know what? I would say, man, we've had such a good run of fights lately between the fight nights and the big cards. We were kind of due for a stinker, and I don't think that this card was a full stinker. So I'm appreciative that we got some entertainment out of this card, and I do think it could have been worse.
I'm happy that I didn't buy tickets. I was on the verge when I got the cut yesterday. I was like, oh, Philly, only 3 hours away. I could get there by the early prelims. The fucking floor level seats were hitting like $400. So I was like, that's not bad. MSG tickets are a fucking month's rent. So, but yeah, I will be waiting and saving my money for MSG again.
Awesome, brother. Well, this weekend we got a pretty solid fight night card. When we look at this main card, opening up, we have the man of the people, Shamil the Meal Deal Gaziev, and he's taking on Kennedy Nzechukwu. Man, this is one where I'd really, really love to see Shamil get back in the win column. And I think he can, but with a puncher's chance. Nzechukwu just does better consistently, I think. And I think he's going to be able to survive the opening minute of Shamil Gaziev. I think we could see Kennedy putting away Gaziev in the first round.
Wait, you can see Kennedy putting away Shamil?
Yeah.
Could, but I'm going to lean with Gaziev here. I'm going to lean with Gaziev, even though he's not been looking too spicy lately. I'm going to say this is where Shamil gets back in the win column. Probably knockout. I mean, it's got to be knockout. So I'm going to say knockout.
Yeah. I mean, it's weird because if you look at Gaziev's record, man, that was knocked out by Pericic, knocked out by Waldo, and he fucking knocked out Thomas Peterson. When you look at this and then you compare it to Nzechukwu, I do think, there's definitely a compelling argument for Shamil winning this. So I think I'm actually going to switch, and I'm going to agree that Shamil's going to do this. He's got the experience. He's beaten better guys. Shamil's going to get this one done, man. Fuck Kennedy Nzechukwu.
Yeah,
Let's see him lose and get cut. I think that's
Pericic is really good, and Waldo, he's obviously really good too. I don't think Kennedy's on that same level, so I'm gonna go with Shamil here.
awesome. Well, the meal deal will hopefully get his UFC win again, and we are moving on to Carly Judice versus Gisela Chavez. It's funny because with Carly Judice, she's not someone that I think of and go, remember when she fought Juliana Miller or, any one of her former opponents. I wouldn't say there's anything about Carly Judice that's memorable, but she's on a nice little 3-fight win streak. Her opponent, Gisela Chavez, is 7-0 right now. She had a split decision win on Contender Series, and she had a split decision win in her UFC debut. So, Carly's tough. I'm thinking that this is going to definitely go the distance. And as far as winner, man, I mean, it's women's MMA. You never know what's going to happen. I'm inclined to say the experience might give Carly the edge here, but Gisela's undefeated. She might have some tricks up her sleeve that Carly doesn't have an answer for.
I'm going Carly Judice easy. Every time I watch this girl, she looked really good, and I also bet against her one time, and that was against Dubin. Dubin was also undefeated, coming off of the Contender Series where she had that huge upset knockout in the Contender Series, and Carly just head kicked her to oblivion. Chavez, another undefeated girl, as so was Dubin. That split decision win she had was against Dubin. That's not really a good look. I think Carly, easy money here. Pretty confident in her. I'm very high on her. Yeah, not really. This women's MMA. It's not really us. But Carly is actually very entertaining to watch. I wouldn't say this is necessarily a piss break because she is entertaining.
Awesome, bro. Well, moving on to we got the return of Mason Jones coming against Markel Medeiros. Medeiros is not someone who's really done anything impressive in the UFC. He's gotten some wins, all by decision. He beat Austin Hubbard, Mark Chwinski, and he has one loss to Chris Padilla. Mason Jones is on a really hot streak right now. He's beat Jeremy Stevens. He beat Axel Sosa in his last fight, which was a brutal beatdown. I think this is a lock, maybe lock of the night. Mason Jones money line. He should whoop Markel Medeiros. I have no doubt about it.
Yeah, I'm going Mason too. I would say if Markel had more power in his shots, I would be a little bit more skeptical about it because Mason can get hurt, but he doesn't. And I see Mason Jones here doing his thing. He's too tough. He's too gritty. He's got the all the skill set, and I think he's gonna pull away here with a victory.
Yeah, man. Well, moving on to our featured bout, we have the return of Renier de Ridder, and he's going to be taking on Roman Dolidze. Man, this is an interesting fight. I guess this somehow slipped under my radar. I didn't know this was even happening, but I'm excited to see de Ridder fight again. I was there for his last fight against Caio, where he didn't look that great, but this is his light heavyweight debut. So hopefully the weight cut is going to be less taxing on him and we can see more out of him. I think that de Ridder should win this. Dolidze's never been anything special, and de Ridder to me seems like the guy that can beat anybody that's not a contender.
Yeah, I would agree. I was high on Dolidze for a long time, but, that's when he was beating the GOATs like Kyle Dawkins. Now it's like the Ritter, they're both moving up to light heavyweight. This is both of their debuts at light heavyweight. And I think the Ritter is going to look better. He's going to look healthier. Kyle's dangerous when you allow him to be. And there were moments where I'm like, oh, is Reiner going to get boomed? And he avoids getting boomed. So I think that's real path to victory is a boom, overhand or something. The Dolidze is really good on the ground, but I don't think it's gonna matter here. I think the Ritter's levels above on the ground. So I'm pretty confident in the Ritter getting this done.
Yeah, agreed. Moving on to our co-main event, we got Sergey Spivak taking on Vitor Petrino. Man, this is, Petrino's on a little 3-fight win streak. He's beat Steven Asplin, Thomas Peterson, and Austin Lane. I would say the only name on that list that's impressive is Steven Asplin. I don't know, man. I feel like Sergey Spivak should win this. He beat Ante Delija, which is a really big win. Lost the decision to Waldo. He did get finished by Jelton, but Jelton's no longer with us. Sergey is definitely a mid fighter, but Petrino is too, man. He lost to On Paper Smith.
I know.
I can't really respect that. And also he got subbed by Anthony Smith. Spivak, I think he's going to have the grappling to pose a problem if we get to the ground. And I think he's going to be able to find his shots better than Petrino. I can't say a method, but I think Spivak should win this fight.
Yeah, I could see this one easily being the snoozer. I will also say I think this is the trap of the card, whichever way you go. I would not bet this fight. There's really no heart and brain, but I got one thing telling me Spivak, one thing telling me Petrino. I'm going to lean Petrino here. I'm going to say it's going to be a boring decision victory. I don't think he's going to get boomed like he did against Jacoby, and I don't think he's going to put himself in a position to get subbed by Spivak. But if it goes to the ground, high likelihood that Spivak gets a submission victory here. Again, not really much else to say with it. This is a fight to just watch, don't bet it, and just see how it plays out. But if Petrino wins, then we can start talking what's next for him. Because we know if he loses, what's next for him. So
agreed, man. And then this will take us to our main event. Anthony Hernandez, who is ranked number 7, is taking on Gregory Rodriguez, who is ranked number 9.
Another fight I probably won't be betting because anything could happen in this fight. Gregory can absolutely put away Hernandez. He has the power to do it. The thing is I know that if this gets into those mid to later rounds, Anthony is going to take over with his cardio. And, I still think Anthony Hernandez has a lot more promise. And I'm going to lean towards Hernandez here. I'm going to lean towards a submission or a ground and pound knockout. Hernandez also does have power in his hands, and Robocop has been finished by knockout. He's been booming people as of late, but he's been knocking out Jack Hermanson. Welcome to the club. And he got a win back that he has a loss against Bruno Ferreira. That was a nasty knockout. But that was literally like they just swapped brains for the rematch. Like Ferreira was doing what fucking Rodriguez did to get knocked out in the first fight, and he got knocked out because he was doing the same shit. So I'm not putting too much stock into those knockout wins. Before that, you got Robocop getting fatigued and gassed out by a grandfather and Jared Cannonier and getting knocked out. So I'm not gonna weigh the Strickland loss too heavy. We just saw what Strickland did to Chimaev. So I'm going to go to Anthony Hernandez here. Not confident, not going to bet it, but that's going to be my pick for this fight.
I see where you're coming from. And, I definitely think Anthony Hernandez has the capability to win this fight. Will he? I don't believe he's going to. I think Gregory Rodriguez is looking hot. I think he's really got confidence with his power and his striking right now. And when you go through the list of Anthony Hernandez's opponents, I don't really see anyone that hits as hard as Robocop. And I don't think we've seen Hernandez deal with some of these big shots that Rodriguez can land. I would say arguably, if we're talking hardest hitter that Hernandez has faced, you're looking at Michel Pereira or Roman Kopylov. And I don't think either of those guys can compare to the power of Gregory Rodriguez. So I think Rodriguez is going to capitalize and get a first or second round knockout. I might throw a little bit of money on Robocop by first round knockout. I think there's good value, and now's the time to beat the guy who just lost, which is Hernandez. This will be interesting to see how this plays out and what middleweight is going to look like. But
I will say though, I'm looking at this undercard and there's a lot of prospects to look out for. I'll start with the first one, Chanel Dyer. She is, again, another one of these female fighters who are very entertaining to watch. She's opening up the main card against Elise Reed. Chanel Dyer is going to have a masterclass performance. Very high on her. She fought in the Contender Series the girl that just beat Gigi 2 weeks ago, Carol Foro. They had an insane scrap on the Contender Series last year where both of them got signed. And since then, she beat Ravina Oliveira by knockout. And she's going to do the same here against Elise Reed. She's very entertaining to watch. Definitely keep an eye out for her. My next prospect on this card is Marcio Barbosa, 18-2. He's coming off that insane knockout against Dennis Bazooka a few months back, completely swept him and knocked him out cold. And then another banger fight, but a prospect everybody's wanting to see is Larian Douglas fighting Jamal Emmers. Larian Douglas just looks like he has this insane power at featherweight, coming off the knockout win against Julian Erosa, which, again, Julian's not that great, but that fight was just very entertaining and showed a lot of promise. So he's going to be tested here against Jamal Emmers, so that's going to be a sick scrap. We broke down Carlo Giudice, who I'm very high on, but the last prospect I'll point to is the guy that just fought on week 1 Contender Series, Anthony Wynn, is fighting this weekend. So that is going to be another one to look out for. So a lot of young, hungry prospects. And, you could have took any one of those 4 fights that I just mentioned and put them on last night's card. And it would have added a little bit of something because we really didn't get much last night. But this card from top to bottom is looking like it's going to be a lot better than last night's card. I'm seeing a lot of finishes here, a lot of scraps, and the only one where I'm like, that's probably going to be a stinker, and that's the co-main event. So yeah, it's going to be a great night of fights.
this is going to be a fun fight night, man. This was when I took a look at the lineup, I got a little excited because there's a lot of good name value. So we'll see a lot of fan favorites get to compete. Thank you guys for watching. Please like and subscribe. This has been another episode of the Violent Life Podcast. We'll catch you next week.
Peace.